Shelling out money, anything, ayy. Ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are not live. We're doing a little pre-recorded episode because your boy has an appointment he cannot miss. But we are bringing you guys a little freight market report here. We are also breaking down a couple of industry headlines just to kind of keep everybody up to par on what is actually going on out there in the freight market. But as always, you guys, if you get value in what you heard and you're not subscribed to the show, you guys subscribe to the show. And if you're feeling ambitious after this one, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. One more quick announcement, you guys. We do drop a weekly newsletter. It just comes once a week, every single Wednesday, but I need you to go to thefreightcoach.com to auto register for it. I'm not going to automatically register for you if I have your contact information, because I personally hate that stuff and I don't want to do that to anybody else. So if you want it, I need you to go to the website, auto sign up for it. It just drops once a week. And again, it's all freight related, you guys. I'm not trying to be a life coach because frankly, I'm still figuring my life out as I go. But that being said, you guys, let's break some stuff down here on this beautiful, what you guys will be watching this Friday morning. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff coming in on the market right now. What's going on? How are things happening? But again, like I always say, I want to help us spot industry trends in the market, because, there's a lot of stuff out there that it can be kind of contradictory, right? Because there's certain freight pockets that, they might be booming this time of the year. There's going to be a seasonal freight push that comes along with it, and it can artificially inflate or deflate like the national average. And I say artificially because that's not everywhere, right? So what's going on? Demand is softening long term, even though near term loads are staying elevated out there. 4 straight months, though, we've had declining volumes, confirming a broader demand slowdown as a whole. But the week 46 of the year, you guys, it remained above 2 million loads for 10 straight weeks. And, obviously it just makes short-term activity is masking long-term weakness out there. And you got to say, what would be causing that? Holidays, right? Like no matter what, I know a lot of the holiday freight is kind of like already out there and on the shelves and stuff like that. But it also will always have an effect, right? Because capacity goes down there. In its most simplest form, you guys, it's supply and demand out there no matter what. And especially for a lot of us and a lot of the freight that the majority of us are moving out there. And so from my perspective, you guys, again, it's masking some short-term drop in freight volumes that are out there. Capacity is getting tighter, though. Truck posts were down 26% year over year. Refrigerated freight was hit the hardest in that at 39%. And then tightening capacity did push up spot rates, though. I just think that there's a little bit of a tightening that's going on out there. But like, again, if demand is falling and capacity is falling, it's still at an equilibrium from a supply and demand perspective out there as a whole. And again, we're going to get into some of those reasons on why capacity might be falling out there. But, I look at it where spot rates as well, if I'm looking at this as a broader market here, like spot rates as a whole are stabilizing. So, again, if you're out there looking, and again, this is that supply and demand factor that starts to creep in here, you guys, is truck volumes drop, rates are going to eventually start to stabilize, and then the natural upswing could potentially happen, but, it's very regionally focused out there. So again, if you're looking at it from a seasonality perspective, what produce is being shipped out there right now. And again, these are those pockets that on a national average can show stabilization as a whole, but like certain pockets are a lot busier than not. Some are going to be dropping, and that's why that can cause you a little bit of confusion out there. Flatbed as a whole is down 4% month over month. Obviously, we know that has everything to do with like those of us that are in flatbed knows that half the country is at risk of being under snow and ice, and it's winter months, right? So it naturally will slow down out there at that time. And I look at it the reefer market as a whole, and again, I'm trying to find those pockets out there. It looks like it is becoming the most volatile out there. And that, I think a lot of that has to do with the seasonality of the produce season, the end of the season here. And then especially when we're coming in, Christmas trees are going to start ripping here soon. And then again, you're going to start seeing a lot of freight rates increase out of the Pacific Northwest. And it's seemingly, kind of like, to summarize it here, it does not look like there is any like real holiday surge that's coming in as a whole, right? Because I was really looking earlier in this year, I was kind of hoping like, hey, we were going to see some normal market swings out here, some tightening around the holidays. And then normally when it comes down to peak season, especially right now, it should be gangbuster with freight volumes. Rates should be sky high, air quotes, on that one. But it's just kind of seemingly not happening out there. And again, there's some broader implications, between tariffs and everything else that have maybe caused people to front load and change up the way that they were shipping because of the flip-flopping, right? And I've talked about this. I'm not here to put an entire episode out here on, like I've always said, I'm pro-America. I'm America first in everything that I do. But when we're flip-flopping at the levels that we were with tariffs earlier this year, I think it caused a lot of uncertainty out there, and it caused people to buy maybe earlier than they had anticipated and stuff like that. And again, we just haven't seen the positive overflow and after effects of that. I think like we're about a decade away from seeing any real meaningful changes with that stuff. But, if I'm looking at it as a whole right now, the freight market is going to be, it's going to be interesting to see. And I'm going to get into an article here in a little bit on what I think is going to be something that could possibly really throw a wrench in things and really drive that capacity to tighten up. Because again, in its simplest forms, it's supply and demand, you guys. And that's it. There's way more trucks on the road than there is freight right now. That is causing pricing to continue to drop and be competitive out there as a whole. And especially these are things that you need to take into consideration as we're going into RFP season, because it's bid season for a lot of people right now. And you need to take this into consideration because going into 2026, I think it might be one of the more tricky years out there if some of this stuff happens. And, again, so that's a little bit of my freight market report. And we're going to jump in here, you guys, into some articles. But again, stay up to date on this, you guys. If you're on any load boards at all, DAT, truck stops, stuff like that, you guys look at all of their data. It's all on their websites. You need to start paying attention to this. And again, like I have alluded to here a lot recently, your boy will be having an official data partner. I will just be literally laying out for you guys how I personally read freight markets, how I do a lot of it to grow my customer base, to really get out there and get ahead, to lock in that long-term pricing. I'm just going to lay all the cards on the table. So whenever that is all locked in, I'll let you guys know. And we're going to have some fun with that by having an official data partner to really break a lot of this down. But speaking of fun and RFP season and where we're going, the first article we are going to break down is written and from my friends over at the JOC. Low truckload, went to public school. Low truckload rates putting pressure on the traditional RFP process. Going out here, you guys, it is, it's talking about how falling rates are creating a strain on the annual RFP model in truckload because rate levels are weak out there. They've been weak. Carriers and brokers are under a lot of pressure, and the process is issuing. The process takes a lot of time. Yes, there's some tools out there that can help expedite a lot of this stuff, but I look at it that going into and again, you can predict, and I feel like everybody's predictions have been wrong. If nothing changes, like if we're in 2026, if nothing actually changes from a policy perspective, and if nothing actually goes down with the way, and because like my gut, I don't think it's going to change as fast as people want. That's where my gut is. That's why I think if you're on a biannual RFP, I would keep your prices the exact same. I truly would. I don't think anything's going to happen. Now, again, I'm going to say this. I could be wrong, right? I could be wrong. There could be a lot of stuff that could happen that could significantly change things. But I look at it is with where we're going into 2026. Again, I don't see anything changing from 2025. And again, even if it does, you guys, the way that a freight market actually changes, you got to think every shipper has a roster of providers. They all don't just have one broker or one carrier that does 95% of their freight. They have a roster of providers. So say it does start to tighten up out there. And again, I don't think that this changes your pricing strategy going into 2026. Your margins might get compressed here a little bit as a broker, but again, you're going to capture a ton of volume because shippers aren't going to open up their doors to new providers, at least not in the first half of 2026 at the levels that some people might think. But I look at it as is, again, if you're in the door with somebody, this might actually get you some RFP freight next year that you might not have had access to. You're going to be able to get some contracted volumes come through the door, but they're going to look to their current network before they ever look to their outside network. And that is where a lot of the opportunities is going to be. I think the majority of people over the next 12 months are going to grow from their existing customers. There's going to be more opportunities because, again, the longer this cycle drags out, more businesses are going to go under. All right. I don't want that to happen. I'm not even trying to hope that that happens, but that's the reality. When you look at the overall data that's out there, credit card debt is at an all-time high. People are broke and it's seemingly not improving. And then that trickles into the business world as well. A lot of people in the industry operate off of razor thin margins. And if there's any compression at all, or any drop in volume at all, or any of this being drug out, it's unfortunately going to put more and more people under. But again, if you're working for a company or your company is financially stable out there, it's going to be a good opportunity for you to capture a lot of volume. Now, I don't know if that's going to mean higher profits or higher margin percentages. Your revenue should grow, but your margin percentage is probably going to remain the same through 2026 if none of the changes happen that some people want to happen. And again, I'm in the camp of it's way too early to tell. I don't think anything. Again, if you had to ask me right now, what's 2026 going to look like? Just like 2025. I think that there's a lot of stuff that has to happen for any meaningful change to go about. But I think, again, shippers are going to love this next bid cycle because I don't think that they're going to have to increase their prices at all. Some might, but I don't think any of them will. I personally think, and again, this article talks about it, it's a once-a-year RFP. I don't know if this is going to continue. And I think this is where some of a lot of technology can come in, where I personally think the way that RFPs used to be done and are currently done for the majority aren't going to look this way in a couple of years. I think with the right automation and technology, AI, whatever you want to call, and throw at it, is going to get it down to where it's like shippers are going to be able to process 10,000 lanes in like a second, essentially, and they're going to be able to do 30-day bids. I think that that's where things are going to trend. I don't want to say that's going to happen in 2026, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is a reality in the next 5 years, where even the largest shippers in North America, the ones that are shipping 10,000 shipments a day, they are going to be able to do an RFP in about less than 5 minutes with the right technology and automation. And it's going to be 30-day bid cycles. Every 15 days, you're essentially going to be repricing your shit. I just think that that's the way that it's going. It could happen that way in the next couple of years. But I think that next year, my advice would be to hope that if you have a shipper that has an annual bid only, hopefully they'll be open to a rebid in the event that there are any changes that goes on. I just look at it is if the market is continuing to be weak, locking in your current prices for next year, you're not going to have a problem with it. You're going to make money. Everything's going to be all right. But I think that at the same time, there's still a lot yet to be seen with that. But again, I'm recording this show at the time of this recording. My honest assessment is things are going to look the same in 2026. And you should have no problem bidding the same pricing and keeping those prices locked in, because I feel like that's the strategy that a lot of people are going to do. Yeah, they're going to try and raise their rates. That's what everybody does around bid time. But then customers are just going to send out a new bid and say, this is the second round, come back with less. But that article, you guys, again, I think that you got to check it out, right? Read it, joc.com. low truckload rates are putting pressure on the traditional RFP process. I'm in agreement with them. I think that that is eventually going to change, and it's eventually going to go away entirely. The next article, this one came out yesterday. This is from FreightWaves. Then again, it's crackdown on foreign truckers threatens U.S. farm labor. And let's see here. 2 seconds, because your boy is working still. And I'm actually moving freight, and I'm quoting freight live here on the show, you guys. I am quoting this live as we go. Well, this will be the recording tomorrow. But again, you guys watch me because I actually broker freight. And none of what I'm talking about on here is theory at all. This is strategy that I actually do inside of my business. And quoted. Let's go. We're winning this load, you guys. Just watch it. Just watch it. We are winning it, and we're off. All right, you guys. So this article talking about, and obviously, like, this is at the top of the, this is just top of every news cycle that's out there right now. There's been a lot of stuff that has came, and I have a take on this that I'm going to put out there after we break this down. But crackdown on the foreign commercial truck drivers could have a ripple effect into U.S. agriculture. Specifically, they are obviously tightening around non-domiciled CDLs, especially ones who don't live in the U.S. on a permanent basis. And so raising alarm amongst agricultural groups. U.S. Customs harvesters warned that the policy is creating confusion and jeopardizing the labor supply, particularly the H-2A farm workers who need CDLs to operate harvesting equipment. The group estimates about 30% of its members rely on the visa, and who make up 75% of the harvesting workforce in some cases. The crackdown isn't just a trucking issue, is what this article is talking about here. And it could disrupt farm. It seems that they're going after all types of work visas right now. The U.S. Customs Harvester is pushing the FMCSA to clearly exempt farm work, the H-2A workers from the new CDL restrictions, and the lack of clarity could force many visa-holding farm workers out of compliance. And they're saying that they're also looking for an exemption from a J-1 exchange worker. These workers also play an important role. If farm labor is disrupted at all, this could have serious consequences on crop production. Reduced harvesting capacity might lead to lower yields out there. And then this is a policy tension point. It's enforcing stricter safety and licensing rules for truckers versus maintaining a stable workforce for agriculture. I brought this up because this was another industry outside of trucking that relies on CDLs. And, a lot of the talking points out there with the ELP. And, again, I'm going to be very clear about what I think should happen from this. And this is 100% directed at the Department of Transportation and Secretary Duffy. I look at it like this. We're at a critical point with this. And like I had mentioned on the show the other day, we need to stop issuing CDLs entirely in this country for whether it's 6 months, whether it's a year, till we get this fixed. Where we're at right now, I mean, there was just a known terrorist who was arrested here recently. And again, I'm not saying every driver out there is a terrorist or anything like that. That's not what I'm getting at here. But I think we got to fix this system, and we got to fix it now. And it's on you, right? Like, you didn't cause this problem, but it's on you to fix it. And I look at it when it comes down to the visas and everything else, as long as everybody is applying and they're doing it the right way, right? Like, there's two camps here. The ones who are completely illegal, who don't even have a valid CDL, who are running an illegal trucking operation, they need to be deported. They need to be arrested. They need to be charged with crimes so severe that they never think twice about doing it again. And I'm separating them from the people who are operating under a legal pretext, right? Because I've seen enough BS out there on social media about drivers and workers who are here under a visa, and they think that that's the problem. out there as a whole. If they're filing the right paperwork, if they're doing the right thing, if they're here under legal status, I think what we're talking about are we're comparing apples to oranges, because somebody's inability to speak English or read road signs in English, I look at that as like, that's the issue. It's not somebody who's here on a work visa. And I've seen enough crap on social media about this, you guys. It's not the people who are here doing it right. That if you want to have a problem with the way that visas are issued, that's a completely separate argument than somebody's ability to read and speak English. And again, there's two classifications of people we're talking about here. The ones who are breaking the law, that don't have a valid business, they don't have a valid CDL, none of that stuff, arrest them, deport them, get rid of them. I can't be more clear than that. But the ones that are here, that have filed the paperwork properly, if we're talking about drivers' ability to read and speak English, there needs to be a set standard across the board. And I'm including American drivers in this, because I would all but guarantee there are some illiterate American drivers that are out there on the road. If it's an ability to read the road signs that affects driver safety, and that's what we're talking about here, and it affects the motoring public, there's got to be a set federal standard across the board. Because a guy who looks like me walking up to, whether it's at a way station or, maybe you look at it is this has to be done when they renew their CDL. And that's why I say they should suspend it for a year. And then every CDL that is reissued, and you should force a reissuance and a recertification of every valid CDL here in the United States of America, if it is about the English language proficiency, their ability to read, speak in English, and and operate that equipment. And I say everybody should be held to this standard, because if a guy like me who walks up and I can't read, how am I more safe on the road than somebody here who might have a visa, might be from Mexico or the Middle East or Russia or wherever, and then they can't read the road signs? Who's more dangerous? We're all just as dangerous, right? So I look at it as, if it's a safety thing that we're talking about here, every single driver that is out there operating heavy equipment, machinery, has a CDL holder, they should all have to recertify their ability to read and speak English, because we need to remove any form of prejudice from this, right? Because it's going to happen, right? You can't sit here and say that that's not going to happen. That if somebody walks up that looks like me, and I might be fucking completely illiterate, I should not get a free pass if I'm operating a truck and a trailer, ripping down the freeway at 80,000 pounds, going 75 miles an hour on the freeway. I am just as much of a risk of not being able to read the signs that the person who was maybe born in a different country, right? So if it's about safety, if it's about improving the safety, if it's about drivers' ability to read the road signs, read and speak English, which we all want, every single driver out there needs to be recertified. And then there has to be a set federal standard across the board. There should be no way that somebody could look at a guy who looks like me and a guy who is maybe not born here and give me a lenient or a free pass, and they're like, oh, he should be able to read English because he was born here. So I hope that that's the stance that we take with this. And I think that that's the only way. Again, that's going to improve everything. I truly feel that way, because I've seen enough out there that it's getting away from the actual safety of it. And people are attacking hardworking individuals out there who should not be attacked. All right. Some of the best drivers I've worked with, probably here on a work visa. And again, if they're doing it right, they shouldn't be unjustly profiled or punished for that. But a guy who looks like me, who can't read, because again, I would all but guarantee there are some drivers who are born here in the United States of America that are illiterate, that are operating equipment out there on the road right now and driving trucks. All right. So it's like, if we're going to do this, we need to do this right. We need to set that standard across the board and hold to it at a federal level. And maybe you go as far as having CDLs only issued at a federal level. And again, if we're looking at it from an overall safety perspective, I think that this is the only way that you got to do it. You got to remove the subjectiveness from this, and you got to have that put the safety of the motoring public at first. And I can already hear what people are probably going to be saying in the comments about this. That flag flew behind me before it was cool for a lot of you to act like you're pro-America. I've been pro-America on this show the entire time. And I know what this is going to drive from some of you who hear this and put this out there. Nothing of what I'm saying is anti-American at all. But again, I've been pro-America on this show a lot longer than the majority of you who now want to openly talk about this. I've been talking about stuff like this for years. If we're going to fix this, we got to blow it all up and start from the beginning and build it all up. Standards have to be standards, and it should not matter. And again, if you have a problem with the visas that are being issued, that is a completely separate argument than a driver's ability to read and speak English, because that doesn't, like, we should never deter quality people from coming here to work here. All right. Yes, I'm America first. Yes, I want Americans to have all the jobs out there in the world. But the facts are the facts, you guys. There are a lot of people out there who don't want to do these jobs. And if there's somebody who is born in another country that comes here and they're doing it right, they're paying their taxes, they're filing their paperwork, and they can prove that they're a legitimate business, so be it. We need to remove any and all subjectiveness from this, and it would end that argument right away. Again, if it's their driver's ability to read and speak English, we got to start there and get it done. Stop issuing all CDLs across the board. Have every driver recertify, every driver, whether they're born here or here on a visa, have them all prove that they can read English and speak English, have a set federal standard across the board on how to do it. And then everybody else who can't, that is here illegally, that is running an illegal operation, that it doesn't have insurance, that is actually putting their motoring public at risk, arrest them all, deport them if they need to be deported, charge them with a crime so severe that it will deter any of this stuff from happening again. So that's kind of my take on that. I just think, like, I've seen so much. I've seen so many bad takes out there. And I guarantee people out there are going to listen to this and say that this is a horrible take. And that's their opinion on it, right? But again, if we're going to attack this for what it is, and if the real issue is somebody's ability to read and speak English and operate heavy equipment out there on the roads, we got to blow it all up and start from the beginning. We got to see exactly how CDLs are being issued across the board. Every state should not be able to subjectively issue a CDL because of whatever political biases that they have. This is why it needs to be done at a federal level. Again, 10 steps, whatever it is, whatever bureaucrats come up with, have a set federal standard. There is no gray area. Every driver has to pass it, and it's all done the exact same way. And I think you have standards at that level, it's going to deter a lot of this, and it's going to force a lot of people to go home out there. But that is going to be it on this show today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. If you're feeling ambitious, rank that show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.